All right, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see everyone back here this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed hearing those messages from Senator Manchin and Congressman Jordan, and we certainly appreciate them keeping up the good fight in Washington. Now it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker and friend of the industry, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Dave became Ohio's 51st Attorney General in January of 2019, bringing to the office his extensive experience rooting out fraud, holding the corrupt accountable, and reforming government. Dave earned his undergraduate degree from The Ohio State University and his law degree from Capital University. He began his public service career as the Delaware County's auditor and prosecutor, and as prosecutor, he won the first ever capital case in Delaware County and took down the largest drug ring in county history. He became Ohio's 32nd Auditor of State in January of 2011 and spent the next 8 years fighting fraud, rooting out corruption, and skinning down government. In 2 terms, he helped convict 170 corrupt public officials and uncovered $30 million in stolen and misspent public funds. He and his wife, Darlene, make their home in Franklin County. They have 3 adult children and 3 grandchildren. I know Dave very well. I used to work for Dave, and you'll find no better public servant anywhere. Please join me in welcoming Dave Yost.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you, particularly at the annual meeting here today. As Rob said, we're very proud of him. He worked with Team Yost and had some notable accomplishments in the General Assembly while he was with us. So when he called me and said, we're having our annual meeting, do you believe in free speech? I said, well, of course, I'm the Attorney General. I believe in the First Amendment. I'm in court all the time defending the First Amendment and our rights. He said, I'm glad you believe in free speech because I want you to give one. He under pain of punishment made sure, it made me swear that I wouldn't tell any stories or talk about his nickname in the office. So I'm going to agree to honor those terms. But I do have a piece of public advice I want to give him in his new role here. I love this association. I love what you guys do. I love the important, critical role you play in our economy. But really, have you thought about the impropitious acronym that you have? OOGA? OOGA. So there's this obvious joke I should tell, but I said I wasn't going to talk about his nickname. But since apparently this is a historic name, certainly a historic organization, I've decided to roll with it and give you a free recommendation from my vast experience of involved in music. I have a proposed jingle for you, and if our friends at the OOGA, OOGA, shaka, OOGA, 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 OOGA, I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. All right, that's enough of that. Girl, you just don't realize what do you think? It's your new theme song. I want to give you a special shout out to the crew because they didn't know. I walked in here and about 3 minutes ago, I walked back and said, hey, you guys got access to the internet here? They pulled that and got it magically through the computer, through the boxes and the wires, and somehow up on that screen. So let's hear it for the tech crew, guys. Thank you for your help on that last-minute thing. Well, every day I get up and read the Bible, and then I read the New York Times, because I think it's important for me to know what both sides are up to. And after I've accomplished that, I usually know what I'm going to sue Joe Biden over next. I appreciate you having me here today. By happy coincidence, I'm here to talk to you about oil and gas. But bear with me for a minute or two as I work my way around to it. I'm sure you've all heard that curse that goes, "May you live in interesting times." Well, I guess we're living in that. After 77 years of relative peace in Europe, and at least among the major nations of Europe, a war is ravaging Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is to blame, obviously, for committing murder, inflicting misery and destruction on a people of a peaceful neighboring country. And as a consequence, he's brought down devastation on his own people. As the economic sanctions imposed on Russia gut its currency and its economy, interest rates in Russia have more than doubled this week to 20% as the ruble crashes. And I think this conflict is teaching us a lot of lessons. First, one that we too easily forget. Peace is always fragile. It can be destroyed by the ambitions or the hallucinations of just one megalomaniac. The second is that freedom, as we all know, isn't free, and it's not guaranteed. It's not even the natural order of things. The people of Ukraine are fighting desperately for their freedom. They're an inspiring example, but their success is far from assured. I pray that God will sustain them and preserve their nation through this nightmare. I also think this conflict carries a lesson for our own country about the danger of throwing away our greatest assets and becoming dependent on the whims of regimes that are not our friends. That's something that our allies in Europe are confronting at this very moment. Their dependence on Russian oil and gas has weakened their ability to curb and respond to Putin's aggression. Russia supplies Europe with about a third of its natural gas, a quarter of its oil, and about 20% of its coal. Western European leaders know that if they protest Putin's bullying too vigorously, he can simply shut off the fuel that they all depend on. And even though Western Europe has overcome this fear and joined in effective sanctions against Russia, everyone is waiting to see if Putin will retaliate by turning off the energy spigot. President Biden and Western European leaders are making contingency plans to keep the lights on, even if he does pull the plug. But it's going to be expensive, and it's going to send punishing ripples throughout their own economies and really in the global economy. Even without Putin threatening European energy supplies, oil prices began rising the moment the Russian troops invaded Ukraine. So let's ask a question of ourselves. How did European countries become so stinking dependent on Russia? Well, we could start with this proposition that no nation is completely independent. It's not self-sufficient. Even a huge economy like ours has raw materials and other products that come from places other than America. And that's why international trade is so beneficial. Western Europe is not self-sufficient in fossil fuels, but Russia has a surplus, so it makes sense for Western Europe to trade with them. But it's one thing to be energy dependent because you lack resources, and another thing entirely to be dependent because you threw away the resources that you once possessed. And that's exactly what's happening in Western Europeans' largest economy. Germany, which has been systematically dismantling its own energy infrastructure, is paying the price for it. Not only is it doing away with its coal-fired generating plants, it's also shutting down its zero-carbon nuclear plants. These two decisions, of course, increase Germany's reliance on Russian oil and gas. And that adds a complicating factor to any effort Germany might make to resist Russian aggression. And because Germany's a key member of NATO, it complicates NATO's response to Russian aggression. So what does all this have to do with OOGA, Chaka? Well, I think the United States is adopting the same kind of policies that have increased vulnerability for Germany and other European countries. In part, it's an intentional effort. Our political system, which generates enormous swings in policy, is undermining the stability and predictability that are fundamental to long-term business planning. For example, take a pipeline. Pipelines are hugely expensive, of course, require years of planning and development. Anyone undertaking to build a pipeline has to have some kind of assurance that the laws and regulatory structure and permitting processes that are in place for pipelines will remain largely stable during the construction and operating life of that asset. But when laws and regulations are prone to reversal after every general election, building a pipeline becomes a billion-dollar crapshoot, which, as you all know very well, is exactly what happened with the Keystone XL pipeline project. Struggled through multiple presidential administrations, first gave a red light, then a green light, then a red light. And after all that, I guess I can't blame TC Energy for pulling the plug and just abandoning the project. But that outcome is going to loom large over investment decisions for every energy company and their investors for years to come. And the story of the Keystone Pipeline involves another story. When the Obama administration nixed Keystone, the environmentalists were ecstatic, and the energy developers were devastated. When the Trump administration gave the green light to the Keystone, the environmentalists were dismayed, and the energy developers were delighted. When Biden killed the project again, the environmentalists were ecstatic, and well, you see where this is going. My question to environmentalists, to the American people, to energy developers, a serious question. Do we want a system that subjects all of us to some such sudden and catastrophic changes in direction? Is there something wrong when such consequential decisions as building or blocking a nationally important infrastructure project can be reversed with just the stroke of a pen by the person who just moved into the White House that morning? Why have we given one person this much power, especially a person that sometimes wins without the support of even the majority of the American people? Shouldn't such decisions be made by more deliberative and representative authority, for example, Congress? And more importantly, shouldn't those decisions be much more difficult to undo once people have made investments, loaned money, changed direction, and bought supplies, purchased land or easements and right-of-way, and on and on, on and on, before workers have abandoned their homes and gone off in hopes of a better job and sustaining work, before people have encountered the opportunity costs of the things that they're not going to do because they're going to do this other thing. In short, shouldn't the word of the United States government mean something? Shouldn't we be able to count on the United States government, the government of the greatest country in the world? And this is not only the way our political system subverts deliberative and representative decision-making. Another one is the power grabs by our alphabet soup of federal agencies. A couple of cases that I'm involved with as Attorney General here in Ohio, will make my point. Currently, there's a case working its way through the federal courts called Texas versus EPA. Texas and 12 other states are challenging the draconian new automobile emissions standards imposed by the Biden administration. Before Biden, under the administration, the emission standards imposed by the Trump administration, and frankly, the general, if you look at the course of those emission standards over much time, this has pretty much been an average. Carbon dioxide and mileage changes were increasing like about 1.5% a year. The Biden administration arbitrarily increased that to 10% just between this year and next year, and then in years following. The increases are virtually impossible with current technology for gasoline-powered vehicles. And they're designed for a very simple purpose, one thing and one thing only. They want to compel automakers to dramatically increase the number of electric vehicles in the fleet. The ultimate aim is to force American consumers into electric vehicles, whether they like it or not. And this isn't being imposed after a deliberative and representative process, but by an administrative, one of the alphabet soup agencies, by an administrative rule. Something so important, what we call in legal circles a major question doctrine, should not be decided by administrative bureaucrats. It needs to be part of our deliberative and representative process, and frankly, I don't believe, and I'm in court to try to prove, that these administrative agencies do not have this power under our system of government. And by the way, can I mention that you already know this, but those electric cars require batteries, which require elements that are, and components that are dominated by, China, one of our good friends out there in the world. This punishing emissions mandate could make a huge part of the American economy dependent on the goodwill of a hostile government. Does that sound familiar as we're watching what's going on in the Ukraine? The same issue is at play in the case of West Virginia versus EPA, which Ohio is also part of that one, working with General Morrissey in West Virginia. I know some of you here are from West Virginia, and I want to commend Patrick to you. He may be the country's leading expert among attorneys general about energy and energy policy, and I love working with him. He's got the American interest, the American economy at heart. During the Biden administration, the White House launched something called the Clean Power Plan. You probably all remember that. It authorized the EPA to impose massive changes on the generation of electricity, including forcing generators to change the fuel that they use. The Trump administration tried to reverse the decision. Of course, it was blocked by the federal courts. And the argument basically boils down to this: whether the EPA can exercise such sweeping, unilateral power without the express authorization of Congress. Obviously, these and similar power grabs are designed to drive the fossil fuel industry into extinction in the name of fighting global warming. Now, I'm not here to argue about the extent of the threat that is posed by global warming. I will note it as an aside that I know insurance companies several years ago recognized the reality of it and started reserving for losses related to it. I don't think there's any question that the climate is changing. There's a huge question about how much, how quickly, and what we should do about it. I'm also not here to argue for any policy about climate change. Those are good debates to have, and that's why we have a representative democracy and a Congress that can have those debates. I'm not here to argue about any particular pipeline project, although I hope that the next Republican president turns the green light back on and that somebody finishes that pipeline, because we need energy independence more than we ever have. What I am here to argue for is a sane policy for developing energy policy, one that understands that most policy questions are not binary. They don't have a yes or no, on or off answer. There are many moving pieces, many interests, many factors to weigh and balance, and it is complicated. I get that. When evaluating energy policy, though, I would suggest it's too simple to simply ask, will this policy mitigate global warming? We also need to ask, what will it do to economic growth? What will it do to the cost of living? What will it do to our ability to resist aggression by hostile powers like Russia and China? It's not a binary question, and we've got to balance all those risks in real time. Whatever the level of threat you individually believe is climate change, there are other bad things that can harm us just as much, and many of them could hurt us a hell of a lot sooner. Just ask Ukraine. Just ask Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for building our economy, because I know those electric cars don't run by themselves, and our cities can't function, and our economy doesn't work, and wealth is not produced without the product that you folks produce. As the Attorney General of Ohio, I recognize that we live in an energy-producing state, and it's my pledge to you that I will continue to fight to make sure that we have sane energy policy that does not put us at the mercy of other economies or other governments, but instead will preserve America sound, free, and prosperous. Thank you very much for having me.
Dave, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so supportive of the industry. We really, really appreciate it. And how about another round of applause for the Attorney General? There's some great words from our Attorney General, and we really, really do appreciate it. We just have a few more items of business before we let everyone get on their way. We do some thank yous here. First, I want to thank the staff and all the volunteers for their hard work over these last few months to put this together. It's very, very hard to put on these types of events. It's been very challenging with all the different types of restrictions and rules that have been in place for the last few years. So I want to thank personally Deneen Welker, Georgette McElroy, Brad Miller, Andrew Casper, Mike Chadsey, from the staff of OOGA. If we could get a round of applause for all of them and all our hard work. And our volunteers that helped with the staff over the course of the week: Marissa Desert, Bridget Johnson, Tanya George, and Tony McElroy. Can we get a round of applause for them? I think I see a few of them out here, but could we get a time? I'd like to recognize all of our past association chairmen. So if you're in a past chair, would you mind standing for a quick round of recognition? I see some out there. There we go. There we go. I would also like to acknowledge our executive committee and board of trustee members. So if you're on either of those, would you mind standing up for just a quick acknowledgement? And all the hard work you guys do. And I'm going to ask for another round of applause for all of our sponsors and exhibitors out there who we can't put these events on without them. So just a quick round of applause. And especially want to thank our top-level sponsors, Ergon, American Refining Group, Pin Oak Energy Partners, Dominion, OOGA, TC Energy, the Empowerment Alliance, Voorhees, and Ascent Resources. And I would also like one more time, I want to thank Bruce, our chairman, who's been just great through this whole process and has been wonderful helping me on my 17th day at the association. So Bruce, can we get a quick round of applause for Bruce? And then finally, time to announce the door prize winner. So Bruce, if you want to come up here.
I'm reading in your drawing, is that right?
Yeah, because conflict of interest.
I got my name in the hat, so I said, I'm not drawing my name out. That I couldn't accept it, so. All right, this is the fourth prize, the wine package, 6 bottles, including a Cabernet, Bordeaux, Pinot Noir, red blends from Portugal, France, and Italy, imported. Can't get any better than that, I guess. See? I shouldn't do this to Rob because, you know, if somebody loses, then, oh, Carrie Ellenbaugh. Carrie Ellenbaugh happens to be my accountant. She will love that. So I told my staff, I'm buying you all a ticket. And so they signed up. I said, now, everybody wants the gun. The odds are better if you pick a different package. And so she picked the wine. An analytic accountant, you might know that. All right, the next one is third prize, 4 tickets to the Cleveland Indians, excuse me, the Indians Guardians home game includes parking pass, access to home plate club in section 163, third base line. There you go. Let's see who gets it. Tim McKean. Congratulations. Enjoy the Guardian Indians. Our next prize, second prize, 4 club section tickets to the Columbus Blue Jackets home game, Sunday, April 24th at 1 p.m. versus the Edmonton Oilers. How about that? And the winner is Perry Pipes. Imagine that. Pep. Perrier to those of us who affectionately love him. All right. First prize, this is the one, the Winchester Model 101 Deluxe Field 12-gauge over-under shotgun with maple stock. Oh, there's a lot of tickets in this one. Chris Kimball. Congratulations. There you go. He can use it out in the pit. They got this big landfill, and his birds are always up there picking through things. So, Chris, I'll bring my gun up, and we'll have fun. Thank you, everyone, for buying the tickets, supporting the PAC, supporting this event. It's been wonderful. Rob, you did a great job. You know, you jumped right in here, and the staff. It takes a lot of behind-the-scenes work. Mike, you know, all these videos and stuff, and reaching out to people. Yeah, I don't know what all he does, but he gets it done. So thank you. And to everybody else, you know, Deneen, she needs to get off her feet, don't you think? She's done a great job. The staff, everyone, we appreciate everything that you've done. So please, we'll see you at the summer meeting. Don't forget the Patriot Awards coming up, so that'll be a big event. Make plans to join us. So, thank you. Closing comments?
Just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for being here for the 75th anniversary of this association. I'm extremely excited to get to know each and every one of you a lot more and a lot better over the coming years. If you need anything, always feel free to reach out. And have a great weekend, safe travels, and thanks for joining us. Take care.